Karen walked into Grandpa's cabin screaming, then ran when the sheriff walked out calmly. The door of Grandpa Eli's cabin burst open with a crack, and Karen stormed in, her designer heels clicking like gunshots on the hardwood floor. "This dump is an eyesore," she shrieked, her voice slicing through the quiet evening. In her manicured hands, she clutched a crowbar, her eyes gleaming with contempt. The cabin, a humble retreat built by Eli's hands decades ago, was more than a homite, was a legacy of love, filled with hand-carved furniture and faded photos of family gatherings. But to Karen, the neighborhood's self-appointed queen, it was a blight on her vision of a pristine, upscale community. She'd been campaigning for months to have it torn down, claiming it lowered property values. Tonight, she'd taken matters into her own hands, ready to vandalize the place and frame it as a random act of destruction to force Eli out. Karen's rampage began with a vicious swing, shattering a handcrafted rocking chair where Eli used to tell stories to his grandkids. She didn't care about the memories woven into every splinter. To her, Eli was just a stubborn old man clinging to a shack that didn't belong in her perfect world. She tore down curtains, smashed picture frames, and scrawled "Move Out" in red paint across the walls, her laughter sharp and cruel. Outside, she moved to the porch, swinging the crowbar at the railing, sending wood chips flying. Neighbors peeked from their windows, too intimidated by Karen's wealth and influence to intervene. She was untouchable, so she thought. But Karen hadn't counted on Lila, Eli's quiet, unassuming granddaughter, who'd been staying at the cabin to care for her grandfather after his recent illness. Lila, a soft-spoken librarian in her 20s, had been in the back room when Karen barged in. Hearing the chaos, she crept to the doorway, her heart pounding as she saw the destruction. Lila wasn't one for confrontation, but this was her grandfather's sanctuary. She grabbed her phone, her hands trembling, and dialed the sheriff. Then, in a moment of unexpected courage, she slipped out the back door and ran to the neighbor's house, where old Mrs. Carter, a retired journalist with a knack for uncovering secrets, was already watching Karen's tirade through binoculars. Mrs. Carter, the twist in this tale, wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She'd been quietly digging into Karen's shady real estate dealings for months, suspecting her of bullying elderly residents into selling their properties cheap. Armed with a small recorder, Mrs. Carter had been documenting Karen's rants at community meetings, where she'd openly mocked Eli and others. Now, as Karen wrecked the cabin, Mrs. Carter whispered to Lila, "I've got her on tape admitting she'd do anything to clear this lot for her developer friends. Let's make sure the sheriff hears it." Lila nodded, her fear turning to resolve. They sent the audio to Sheriff Daniels, who was already on his way. Inside the cabin, Karen was in her element, reveling in the chaos. She kicked over a table, sending Eli's old fishing trophies crashing to the floor. "This'll teach that old fool to define me," she muttered, her voice dripping with arrogance. She didn't hear the crunch of gravel outside as Sheriff Daniels' patrol car pulled up. The sheriff, a calm, weathered man in his 50s, had known Eli for years and respected the old man's quiet dignity. He'd also heard whispers about Karen's underhanded tactics, but lacked proof until now. The confrontation came swiftly. Karen was mid-swing, about to smash a window, when the cabin door creaked open. Sheriff Daniels stepped out, his boots steady on the porch, his face unreadable. Karen froze, the crowbar slipping from her hands with a dull thud. "Evening, Karen," he said, his voice low and deliberate, like a storm gathering on the horizon. "Care to explain why you're destroying private property?" Her usual bravado faltered. She stammered, trying to spin a lie about checking on the place for Eli's safety, but her painted lips trembled, betraying her guilt. The sheriff held up his phone, playing Mrs. Carter's recording of Karen's venomous rants about forcing Eli out. The blood drained from Karen's face. "You've been bullying folks in this town for too long," Daniels said, stepping closer. "Threatening Eli, harassing neighbors, and now this? You're done." Karen's eyes darted to the woods, her instincts screaming to run. She bolted, stumbling in her heels, but the sheriff didn't chase her. He didn't need to. The community was already gathering, drawn by the commotion. Lila stood with Mrs. Carter, who was now live-streaming the scene to the neighborhood group chat, exposing Karen's crimes to everyone she'd intimidated. Karen's empire of influence was crumbling with every step she took. Karen's downfall was as swift as it was brutal. By morning, the town was buzzing. Mrs. Carter's recording had gone viral locally, shared across social media with hashtags like Justice for Eli. Karen's real estate schemes unraveled as more residents came forward with stories of her coercion. The police found evidence of her tampering with property records, and charges piled up: vandalism, harassment, and fraud. Her pristine reputation shattered. She was shunned by the very social circle she'd lorded over. Eli's cabin, though damaged, became a symbol of resilience. Neighbors rallied to repair it, hammering nails and painting walls, their laughter drowning out the memory of Karen's screams. In the end, Karen fled town, her luxury SUV packed with whatever she could salvage. Eli, frail but defiant, sat in his restored rocking chair, Lila by his side, as they watched the sunset from a porch. The cabin stood stronger than ever, a testament to love and community. Karen's arrogance had sparked a fire, but it was the town's unity that burned brightest. This story isn't just about one woman's fall, it's about standing up to those who think power excuses cruelty. What do you think? Was Karen's punishment fair? Or should the town have shown her mercy? Share your thoughts, because justice, like truth, thrives when we talk about it.